Okay. Oh, are you Tim?
I'm Tim.
Oh, amazing. Cool. Well, I'm glad you're able to join us.
Hi, everybody.
Well, I'm really glad to have you all here today for this AI agent panel. We'll be discussing the full stack, what it really takes to build a good agent. I'm particularly really excited to be here. I lead developer relations at Cello, and we focus a lot on helping builders create AI agents. And there's a lot of different trade-offs when it comes to building AI agents, when it comes from security, the tech stack, the trust layer, and different assumptions we're making. So I'm glad to have this panel today with all of you, where we can dissect those and actually begin to do some hot takes, some spicy takes about AI agents and how to build them. So to get started, can you each introduce yourself and a really, really quick, like just one-liner on what your company does and why what you're working on is important for AI and AI agents? Who wants to start us off?
I'll start. Hi, I'm Tim Cotton. I'm from Scripted. We are building layer 1 for AI agents called Inori Network. And we build AI agents in general. And if we have an upcoming stack called AVB for Autonomous Virtual Beings. And fun thing about me, my first job was programming AI for video games in the early 2000s at EA.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alfonso. I'm one of the founders at Crossmint. We do Web 2-like APIs for Web 3 functionality. One of our biggest focuses right now is helping bring AI agents on chain. And on that regard, we have hosted APIs for things like tokenization, payments, and wallets that work well for agents. And we also have a few open source projects, such as Code SDK and SDK, where there's 200 different on-chain functions that you can directly integrate in frameworks like ELISA, LangChain, Vercel AI, et cetera. And as a fun fact, in a prior life, I was going against agents. I created the infamous I'm not a robot when I was at Google, so apologies for that. Trying to redeem myself now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sebastian, CEO at Ember AI. We're a DeFi. Oh, is this better? All right, thank you. I'm Sebastian, CEO at Ember AI. We are a DeFi knowledge graph for agent execution. I'm working on kind of a similar problem to you. I think we have a very shared approach to how we want abstractions to help people build these agents. Spearheading the Arbitrum Agent Kit initiative. And fun fact about me, I was in the Magic Gathering World Cup when I was 15.
Hi, I'm Nitya. I'm the founder of Para. Para makes it easy to provision embedded wallets, as well as kind of manage liquidity across applications. So we build a bunch of developer tools. Recently, related to the topic of this panel, we launched an ELISA OS plugin. And a fun fact about me, I was involved with NLP in the pre-LLM days, and so the nice hard-coded neural net world. And so it's amazing to see where everything's gone.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for introducing yourself. To kick off our panel today, I wanted to ask our first question, which is why do AI agents need blockchain at all? What can they do on-chain that they can't do off-chain? Who wants to kick us off? Yeah, go ahead.
I can take that one. So to me, I think what I would say is I think AI agents will choose at some point what tools they use. And I think they will choose to use blockchain in many cases when they see that it's lower friction to do things such as make a payment, maybe lower fees and faster execution, to acquire an asset if it's tokenized, to get yield, things like that. So I think to some extent the way I would say is more like, it's not do they need crypto, it's like if we as a crypto industry are able to lower the barriers of adoption, we have a better technology for moving money and value around, and they will come and use it. They're going to become more intelligent than humans, and they're just going to care about throughput, reliability, fees, things like that.
I'm just going to jump in from the, hopefully the scaling perspective a little bit. I'll try to keep the story very short, but when I worked on the first generation of massively multiplayer online games, we had AIs, we called them non-player characters. We didn't have deep learning accessible, but we did have lots of behavioral scripting, and those things were expensive to run on the CPUs. We could not resolve state for hundreds of thousands of them running at the same time in the same world. The players were cheap. Players are just movement. You know, players send little packets from the network stack. AI agents require tons of computation. Decentralization has promised us that we should be able to find a way to shard those computations, actually scale up AI, and that's exciting to me. And I agree with you, by the way, that in that case, if we have parts of AIs running in a decentralized context, well, sure, blockchain is a natural payment and accessibility layer for them.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And we talk a lot about the importance in the blockchain space of decentralization. And the other piece that is huge is trust, right? A lot of us work in this industry because of trust assumptions. And I think that's really fascinating when it comes to AI agents. Specifically, I wanted to talk about Ember AI that does a lot of stuff in the DeFi space. And when it comes to DeFi, there are a lot of trust assumptions that you need to make. As we make AI agents fully more autonomous, how do we ensure that they actually stay trustworthy? Specifically, are we just shifting our trust problems from institutions into unpredictable algorithms? And I would love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, thank you. So I think there's many layers to the question of trust. I think there's one part which is trusting your financial assets to an agent. I think there's another part which is trusting the agent execution and the logic behind that. I think there's another part which is trusting the actual inference mechanisms and the actual model execution. These all have different layers of trust, but I think at a high level, what's important is when people are trying to engage with AI agents and kind of accept this non-human perspective on whatever it is that they want to do, there needs to be a clear way to enmark or frame how exactly it is that this agent will be doing this stuff for you, right? So observability sitting at the core of all of these things is probably the most important for generalized trust for all the layers of complexity.
Yeah. Curious if anyone else wants to comment on that.
I'll just ask the crowd. A show of hands, anyone play with Solana meme coins recently? Yeah? Okay. If anyone jumped into like Radium concentrated liquidity market making, the clam pools, how great would it have been if we had an autonomous agent that we could have given our funds to jump in and out of clams for us and get out when volatility was going nuts, and also make sure that we could trust that agent, that it wasn't just siphoning off our funds. Now that's where I like this idea of credible neutrality, provable fairness. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, especially when it comes down to how do we make sure AI agents don't just go rogue with our funds. I'm really interested to hear from Nitya and what you're working on at Para. What specifically advice you would have for builders creating AI agents to ensure that they don't actually go rogue?
Yeah, great question. I think AI and crypto are such a kind of odd perfect pairing in the sense that LLMs are most infinitely non-deterministic, and you have that coupled with crypto rails, which are irreversible and deterministic. And when you bring these two things together, there's almost this interface where the two meet, where you need to kind of patch these two very different realities. And one thing that we think a lot about is how can you allow AI agents to reach a goal state or to maximize with respect to some objective, but with some guardrails to ensure that maybe if there are undesired steps, that those are either prevented, or if there are desired steps, those are kind of maximized. Like one example might be certain protocols that maybe recently had a hack on them. You might want an AI agent to avoid kind of leveraging a compromised liquidity pool, a multi-sig that has kind of a known vulnerability. And so we think a lot about like how can you set guardrails as well, so that you get to the right destination, but also do that kind of safely or leverage kind of human knowledge to get there.
I like what you talked about around guardrails for AI agents, and I think that's an aspect that makes building on-chain AI agents very exciting. You can actually program different things around how money is spent or actions that are interacting on-chain. Alfonso, I know Crossmint is also the team behind GOAT. Can you tell us a little bit more about GOAT and what makes this framework unique compared to maybe other AI agent frameworks?
Okay, so GOAT SDK, not to be confused with the animal or the token, is an open source library, the biggest open source library of on-chain actions available directly to consume by AI agent frameworks. So the idea how this works is there's more than 50 companies that put their wallets, their like on-chain protocols, whatever it is, their like data feeds that they provide for on-chain tooling. They all put them there as one library, and then the framework takes care of ensuring that from a plugin there, agent frameworks like ELISA, Vercel AI, LangChain, etc., all are able to install those plugins without having to write any code. I think what it makes, so one thing I would say is like to make it different from things like ELISA and things like that, ELISA is an agent framework or virtuals or CRPI that more like run the agentic loop. This is a toolkit. It's more like a collection of tools, so they're compatible. There's other toolkits out there, and I think at the end of the day, what matters the most is which one has more tools and higher quality. Because they're all open source, many, I think, will eventually just merge because it's all free open source. They're really not like a competition. But yeah, I encourage you all to check it out and see. Things that we're doing there that I think are potentially relevant for the topics of security and so on. I think a big problem we're going to have is supply chain attacks on AI agents. So something to some extent similar to the hype we saw in Bybit, although that was on the front end. But imagine your AI agent is doing a swap, and it's just importing some code from a random repository. You need to make sure that the code that they're running is trusted. So we're going to be implementing some things there for formal verifiability that you don't have like, or not guarantees, but at least get as close as we can to make sure that the plugins there don't have like a drainer or things like that. But yeah, I think we're still at 1% of where we all need to be as an industry, so we'll see how things evolve.
Very fascinating. I mean, you talked a lot about a bunch of different things we can do for on-chain actions. We talked about programmable wallets. We talked about, I know, knowledge graphs. And with all that, our panel is about the tech stack behind AI agents. And so I'm really curious for all of you, what emerging trends or technologies do you see the future of agent development?
Yay, this is the fun part for me. I just want to follow off of what Alfonso was talking about because he called it out clearly with ELISA, Xerapy, and others. There are multiple open source frameworks right now that have just gone parabolic on GitHub. And if you look at like what ELISA Labs did with Shaw's project, they managed to collect hundreds of us to contribute to this repository and create tons of endpoints for services, everything from voice generation, knowledge graphs, all of it, right? And multiple other frameworks, looking for their own edges, did kind of the same thing. Pippin went a little bit differently. Yohei decided, I have a different kind of loop that I want to do. My value is in the way that it autonomously creates its own functions. So I'm just going to go hook up to a provider, not Crossman in this case, but a provider of these services, and it can just register and find those services. So we're finding now that the frameworks that move towards learning, memory, and actually more complicated like thinking processes and planning and strategies, that's your V2. That's what's actually going to be important over the next couple of months, whereas we're going to start depending more on services like over on this side of the panel.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. I know we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to do a quick lightning round for a few questions I have. Starting off, and I would love to have each of you share, so if you could just like yell out that word for you. What is a really interesting AI agent use case that you are most excited about? Who wants to kick us off?
Alien life forms.
Alien life forms, fascinating. On-chain alien life forms, fascinating.
On-chain aliens.
I want an executive assistant in Telegram that manages all my chats for me.
Yeah.
I think the financial inclusion element of DeFi and specifically the lowering of the friction with AI agents and LLM interfaces is something that it'll take a little bit for us to get there, but as you see, crypto penetration in like emerging markets, you'll also, I think, see a lot of that, being able to enter what a financial market might be for someone in the first world, for people who don't necessarily have the expertise or the time to dedicate to something like that.
Mine is also personal assistant for kind of very niche financial tasks, like calling up a number when people don't have credit cards enabled, like those really kind of laborious, like phone call involved tasks.
I like that. I can't wait till my personal AI agent assistant exists and they can automate my life. And then my last question I have for you, and maybe any builders who end up watching this later on, what's one piece of advice you would give to a builder who's getting started building AI agents?
Well, right now, you have multiple frameworks to play with, so just download one, edit a character profile, run it, and then learn exactly why you don't like it. Or if you do, great. But if you feel like the character profile just isn't enough and you can't hack it with just a prompt, now you have something of value to add to the industry. That would be great.
Yeah, to latch onto that, I think the idea, like, let's not forget that LLM calls are all about context and context management. So however it is that you're feeding content into the queries that you're making, just really pay attention to that, because that's probably going to be the source of all of the errors that you might run into.
Mine is you can just do things, and then also keeping in mind what value do you want to add, what incremental kind of extra functionality do you want to provide, and for who. Like always thinking about the user.
Mine would be don't launch a token, make an agent that actually provides utility.
Fascinating. Thank you all so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge on this panel. Really enjoyed having you. And yeah, definitely make sure to go check out all of these speakers and their products as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Shout out to the beans at AVB and everyone else who was listening.